Namaste all, and welcome to our continuing series on the essays on the Gita with our beloved Ranga. Today we are in a new chapter, Works and Sacrifice, chapter 11.
Works and sacrifice. The yoga of the intelligent will and its culmination in the Brahmic status, which occupies all the close of the second chapter, contains the seed of much of the teaching of the Gita. Its doctrine of desireless works, of equality, of the rejection of outward renunciation, of devotion to the divine. But as yet, all this is slight and obscure. What is most strongly emphasized as yet is the withdrawal of the will from the ordinary motives of human activities, desire from man's normal temperament of the sense-seeking thought and will with its passions and ignorance, and from its customary habit of troubled, many branching ideas and wishes to the desireless calm unity and passionless serenity of the Brahmic poise. So much Arjuna has understood. He is not unfamiliar with all this. It is the substance of the current teaching which points man to the path of knowledge and to the renunciation of life and works as his way of perfection. The intelligence, withdrawing from sense and desire and human action, and turning to the highest, to the One, to the actionless Purusha, to the immobile, to the featureless Brahman, that surely is the eternal seed of knowledge. There is no room here for works, since works belong to the ignorance. Action is the very opposite of knowledge. Its seed is desire, and its fruit is bondage. That is the orthodox philosophical doctrine, and Krishna seems quite to admit it when he says that works are far inferior to the yoga of the intelligence. And yet, works are insisted upon as part of the yoga, so that there seems to be in this teaching a radical inconsistency. Not only so, for some kind of work, no doubt, may persist for a while, the minimum, the most inoffensive. But here is a work wholly inconsistent with knowledge, with serenity, and with the motionless peace of the self-delighted soul. A work terrible, even monstrous, a bloody strife, a ruthless battle, a giant massacre. Yet it is this that is enjoined, this that is sought to justify by the teaching of inner peace and desireless equality and status in the Brahman. Here then is an unreconciled contradiction. Arjuna complains that he has been given a contradictory and confusing doctrine, not the clear, strenuously single road by which the human intelligence can move straight and trenchantly to the supreme good. It is in answer to this objection that the Gita begins at once to develop more clearly its positive and imperative doctrine of works. Very interesting. The whole para is just stressing that works seem to be inconsistent with the Brahmic consciousness. Actionlessness is internal, it is psychological, it is not external and physical. That's the whole thing. That's the doctrine of the Gita. So if it is clear, we go on to the next para.
Yeah. One question.
Yeah.
If a man living in the ignorance can truly offer his work without any desire for the fruits of action.
There's a contradiction in what you're saying. When he is in ignorance, necessarily there will be desire for the fruits of action.
Okay, but suppose he's not in ignorance.
If he is not in ignorance, then he is in the Brahmic state. Desire disappears, ego disappears. What is meant by ignorance? Ignorance is at level 1.
Yes.
You are identified with your body-mind life. So long as you think that this is me and you're not conscious of your soul, you are in ignorance. But the moment your ego disappears and your consciousness rises out of the body-mind life and goes up, you are not in ignorance.
Okay. So
It's
we
a
move on?
Yeah. We go to the next one.
Yes.
The teacher first makes a distinction between the two means of salvation on which in this world men can concentrate separately: the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of works. The one implying, it is usually supposed, renunciation of works as an obstacle to salvation, the other accepting works as a means of salvation. The yoga of knowledge, it is implied that they discourage action in the world. And the yoga of works is you use works as a means of ascent to by sacrifice. In the yoga of knowledge, there is no sacrifice. It's only by concentration and sheer effort that you do it. He does not insist strongly on any fusion of them, on any reconciliation of the thought that divides them, but begins by showing that the renunciation of the Sankhyas, the physical renunciation, sannyasa, is neither the only way nor at all the better way. Naishkarmya, the calm voidness from works, is no doubt that to which the soul, the Purusha, has to attain. For it is Prakriti which does the work, and the soul has to rise above involution in the activities of the being and attain to a free serenity and poise, watching over the operations of Prakriti but not affected by them. That, and not cessation of the work of Prakriti, is what is really meant by the soul's Naishkarmya. Naishkarmya, non-action. Okay? Karma is work, and Naishkarmya is a noun from not doing any works. Okay, so therefore, it's an error to think that by not engaging in any kind of action, this actionless state of the soul can be attained and enjoyed. Mere renunciation of works is not a sufficient, not even quite a proper means for salvation. Not by abstention from works does a man enjoy actionlessness, nor by mere renunciation of works does he attain to the perfection, to siddhi, the accomplishment of the aims of his self-discipline by yoga. Chapter 3, verse 4. This is his quoting and putting in double quotes. Not by abstention from works. So, what is meant Gita's inaction is the cutting of the desire in the heart and the mind. The sankalpa, we saw that the other day. It is the desire starts in the mind. I want this. So, at that level itself, in the mind, cut the thought. Then the desire will slowly fade away. So that is inactionlessness in that sense, psychological inactionless, not physical. If you do physical works or you stop doing physical works and yet the desire is there in the mind, it's of no use. The best example to give is, suppose you are very fond of something, okay? Let's say a particular food. Let's say ice cream. Okay? And you say, no, there is desire and that's why I'm eating ice cream. So I will stop eating ice cream. That's of no use because the desire is still there in the mind. So cut the desire in the mind. Then, when the desire is gone from the mind, whether you eat ice cream or not is immaterial. That's the whole the Naishkarmyam of the Gita.
Now, what about in the heart?
You
said in the heart also.
Yes, it's in the sankalpa. It starts with an idea in the mind. I want this today.
Okay.
So that has to go. It can be a feeling from the heart also. But it translates into a thought. No? You may have a vague feeling that you want something, but it translates into a thought.
But if it's in the vital,
In the?
desire in the vital
Yes, but that is always there.
is more powerful than the mind, you told us.
It reflects in the mind. If only the desire is there in it translates into a thought. I would like to have this.
Okay.
It's not the mind proper.
Okay. Now
It's a reflection of in the vital.
Yeah, okay.
And that you have to cut. That you have to say no to it. And that's a painful process. So that's what he's saying. Yeah. Not by abstention from works does a man enjoy actionlessness, nor by mere renunciation of works does he attain to perfection. It is a cutting of the desire in the mind. That is actionlessness. Then when you do the action, it doesn't make any difference. The argument of the Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge is, if you engage in action in the physical world, you are coming in contact with sense objects, and that will raise attachment. It will originate attachment and desire. Therefore, abstain from action itself. There is a truth in that, a small truth. But that will not cure you. The real cure is cutting the link in the mind and the heart. So that's what Gita's teaching.
Shall we do the next para?
Yeah. But at least it must be one necessary means, indispensable, imperative. So now he's going to ask questions, and he's questioning the Gita's contention. But is it not true that little action, you should stop action? That's what he's asking. Then he'll answer. Again another question, again answer. But at least it must be one necessary means, indispensable, imperative. Which one? Not doing the action in the physical world. Restraining from the action. Okay. For how, if the works of Prakriti continue, can the soul help being involved in them? How can I fight and yet in my soul not think or feel that I, the individual, am fighting? Not desire victory, nor be inwardly touched by defeat? These are Arjuna's questions. So, if I go on doing works, how will I not be influenced by it? That's what he's saying. This is the teaching of the Sankhyas, that the intelligence of the man who engages in the activities of nature is entangled in egoism, ignorance, and desire, and therefore drawn to action. On the contrary, if the intelligence draws back, then the action must cease with the cessation of the desire and ignorance. This is the Sankhya philosophy. Don't do action and go in, then slowly the desire will vanish. But that's not so true. It has to be cut there in the mind. The desire can continue to be there. So, the other, what you are abstaining from the action, is Puritanism. It's Puritan. A Puritan does that. He does not engage in outward action, but the desires are there in the mind. On the contrary, if the intelligence draws back, then the action must cease with the cessation of the desire and ignorance. This is not Srimdos, this is the Sankhya philosophy. Therefore, the giving up of life and works is a necessary part, an inevitable circumstance, and an indispensable last means of the movement to liberation. Now, you have to be very careful when you read this. Go back to the first sentence, okay? Yeah. This is the teaching of the Sankhya's. So whatever he's going to say next is the Sankhya teaching, not Srimdos. So very often we get confused. Okay? So you have to be very, very careful about that. All that he's saying here is not his or Gita's. It's a Sankhya philosophy. So they are objecting and they are saying, you are saying that don't do any action, but the action should not stop in the world. But if it does not stop, won't I get plunged into it? Won't I be sucked into action and then desire will come? That's the objection. So now the answer. This objection of a current logic, it is not expressed by Arjuna, but it is in his mind, as the turn of his subsequent utterances shows. The teacher immediately anticipates. No, he says, such renunciation, far from being indispensable, is not even possible. You can't really stop physical action. You have to eat, you have to sleep, even thinking is an action. Even emoting is an action. So that's what the answer is coming. The teacher immediately anticipates. No, he says, such renunciation, far from being indispensable, is not even possible. For none stands even for a moment not doing work. Everyone is made to do action helplessly by the modes born of Prakriti. Okay? This is verse 5 of chapter 3.
And these double quotes always stand for quotes in the Gita.
Yes, sometimes even without the quotes.
Oh.
That's why we have to refer to that and then note down where he is saying that. Okay, so the strong perception of the great cosmic action and the eternal activity and power of the cosmic energy, which was so much emphasized afterwards by the teaching of the Tantric Shaktas, who even made Prakriti or Shakti superior to Purusha, is a very remarkable feature of the Gita. Okay?
That I need to understand better.
Yeah. Although here an undertone, it is still strong enough, coupled with what we might call the theistic and devotional elements in thought, to bring in that activism which so strongly modifies its scheme of yoga, the quietistic tendencies of the old metaphysical Vedanta. Man embodied in the natural world cannot cease from action, not for a moment, not for a second. His very existence here is an action. The whole universe is an act of God. Mere living even is his movement. So,
how did the Tantric Shaktas say that Prakriti or Shakti was superior to Purusha?
Yes. So this is the quietistic philosophies, Buddhism, Jnana, Bhakti, they all goes to the actionlessness. They stress the actionlessness. Okay. But the Tantrics say, no, there is Purusha, there is Prakriti, there is Chit, there is Shakti, there is the Lord and there is the feminine aspect of the divine. We will go through the feminine aspect. We will go through action, through power. We will worship the Divine Mother and go there too. She is there also. So their path is absolutely opposite. Do action. And not only do action, but do the action that others are even forbidding you to do.
Yeah.
And there's a logic in that. Okay, you do the action that you should not supposed to be doing and detach yourself. They'll indulge in drinking, in having relations with women, okay, but they will control themselves. That is why the Tantra is a system fit only for men who have a godlike nature already to begin with. The Tantra is valid, but not for the common man, because he will fail.
And the Tantra of the left hand?
Yeah, that's it. They're the one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Tantric of the right hand goes more towards knowledge, not more towards action.
Okay.
And they will not indulge in these maximum things which shock people. They will indulge in the sexual act. They will eat meat, they will eat even human flesh. The idea is to get absolute detachment and not be affected by all these things. Of course, it can be done in a more mild and more beautiful way. Okay, but even Ramakrishna used to do that. Okay, he used to action, desirelessness. He used to take money in one hand and he used to take mud in the other hand. And he used to say, what's the difference between these two? They are both just matter. And he used to throw it into the Ganges. Taka, mati. Mati, taka. Tafas taki. What is the difference? No difference. Throw it in the sea. Or he used to even do the other thing also, which is not spoken of usually. Sandalwood paste is used by women because it's fragrant and it also is very smooth on the skin. So it's a beauty product in India, sandalwood paste. He would take that, put on his hand, and on the other side he would take excreta and put on his What's the difference? So this is the tantric principle. Do it and be detached. But it is fit only for, as you said, for godlike human beings. It is not fit for those who are ordinary people.
And the Swami in Tiruvannamalai, was he a godlike man?
The Swami
The Swami that Mother used to send people to?
Oh, he was a tantric.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he was a tantric. Yeah.
So he was a godlike man?
Neelakanta Shastri. Mother said about him, he was a married man, he had children, okay? And he used to tell those, Mother used to send everybody to him at one time.
Yeah.
All of them used to. Have you ever been there to Rameshwaram also?
No, I never met him. But I knew people who went to him.
Oh, any number.
Yes.
Any number. I can give you a whole list. And he used to say, come on, let's go and see a cinema today. And Mother was not very particular about going into the town to see films. But he would do that. He would take people there. But Mother said to him, about him, he is absolutely pure inside. So he was a real tantric. Tantra in India was located in very few places. Tibet, Bengal, and South India.
That's all. Oh.
There was the practice. But now I think it is almost defunct. So, there are people still. There are who do that. There are reports also. So, there are still who practice. But they are rare. Not so common. So, this is what Srivda is saying is that the tantrics raised this question of action in the world and made that the only way to go to God through the Divine Mother. Through Prakriti, you go to God. You go to Purusha. You go to consciousness. Okay? Our physical life, its maintenance, its continuance is a journey, a pilgrimage of the body, Sharira Yatra. Now, and that cannot be effected without action. Sharira Yatra is a Sanskrit word which means maintenance of the body. Sharira Yatra, the journey of the pilgrimage of the body, as Ramdas translated. Journey of the body. The journey of the body. Maintenance of the body. You have to eat. You have to sleep. These are actions. Even if you don't do anything and sit quiet, your mind is working. That also is action. Actionlessness means total silence. Shut down of all movement. And when you go to the Brahmic consciousness, there is a shutdown. The body may be acting. You have to, because you have to maintain yourself. But the mind and the heart are absolutely unaffected by anything. Immutable. Our physical life, its maintenance, its continuous, is a journey, a pilgrimage of the body, Sharira Yatra. And that cannot be effected without action. But even if a man could leave his body unmaintained, otiose, if he could stand still, always like a tree, or sit inert like a stone, tishtati, that vegetable or material immobility would not save him from the hands of nature. He would not be liberated from her workings. Nature is even acting on the stone and even acting in the tree. So, how will he escape that? For it is not our physical movements and activities alone which are meant by works, by karma. Our mental existence also is a great complex action. It is even the greater and more important part of the works of the unresting energy. The energy is constantly on the move. Nothing in the physical world is static. Subjective cause and determinant of the physical. We have gained nothing if we repress the effect but retain the activity of the subjective cause. Make the mind silent. Make the mind absolutely without thought. The objects of sense are only an occasion for our bondage. The mind's insistence on them is a means, the instrumental cause. A man may control his organs of action and refuse to give them any natural play, but he has gained nothing if his mind continues to remember and dwell upon the objects of sense. Such a man has bewildered himself with false notions of self-discipline. He has not understood its object or its truth, nor the first principles of his subjective existence. Therefore, all his methods of self-discipline are false and null. There is a footnote, okay? And that footnote, I can read it now. The word used in the Gita is mithyachara. But mithyachara can be misinterpreted in other ways. So Srila has given this footnote. I cannot think that mithyachara means a hypocrite. The man who is not doing physical action, but still the desire is there, he is not a hypocrite. He is in ignorance. That's what Srila says. Here is a man, how is a man a hypocrite who inflicts on himself so severe and complete privation? He is mistaken and deluded. Vimud Atma and his achara, his formally regulated method of self-discipline, is a false and vain method. This surely is all that the Gita means. Many people think they interpret it as a hypocrite. The one who is having desires in the mind and not indulging is a hypocrite. But Srimad says that's not the right way. He is in ignorance. That's what Srimad is saying. So, false and null. The body's actions, even the mind's actions, are nothing in themselves, neither a bondage nor the first cause of bondage. What is vital is the mighty energy of nature, which will have her way and her play in her great field of mind and life and body. This is level 1, mind, life and body. What is dangerous in her is the power of her 3 gunas, modes or qualities, to confuse and bewilder the intelligence and so obscure the soul. The gunas are sattva, rajas, tamas, the principle of inactivity, the principle of activity, energy, power, movement, and the understanding of the mind. Sattva, rajas, tamas.
In later chapters, he goes into that very deeply.
Yes. That, as we shall see later, is the whole crux of action and liberation for the Gita. Be free from obscuration and bewilderment by the 3 gunas, and action can continue as it must continue, and even the largest, richest, and most enormous and violent action. It does not matter, for nothing then touches the Purusha. The soul has naishkarmya. So when he is saying the 3 gunas, we identify ourselves normally with the body, the vital and the mind. These are my thoughts, this is my body, this is me. So that feeling has to go. The consciousness comes out of the body-mind life, realizes that the body-mind life was only a house in which I was living. I am not the house. I am the house owner. I own the house. That word used in Sanskrit, dehin, the one who possesses and uses the body, mind, life. The soul is the dehin, the one who possesses the body, mind, life. Okay? So far clear. The physical renunciation is not that important. Or rather, in the Tantra and the Gita, physical renunciation must continue. But without attachment, without desire, without ego, without the desire for the fruit of the works. If you don't do physical action, that doesn't solve any problem radically. It does not. Okay?
We go next para.
Yeah, we'll do one more para. But at present, the Gita does not proceed to that larger point. Since the mind is the instrumental cause, since inaction is impossible, what is rational, necessary, the right way is a controlled action of the subjective and objective organism. The mind must bring the senses under its control as an instrument of the intelligent will, and then the organs of action must be used for their proper office, for action, but for action done as yoga. But what is the essence of the self-control? What is meant by action done as yoga, karma yoga? It is non-attachment. It is to do works without clinging with the mind to the objects of sense and the fruit of the works. Not complete inaction, which is an error, a confusion, a self-delusion, an impossibility, but action full and free, done without subjection to sense and passion, desireless and unattached works are the first secret of perfection. Do action thus self-controlled, says Krishna. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. I have said that knowledge, the intelligence, is greater than works. Jayasi karmano buddhi. But I did not mean that inaction is greater than action. On the contrary is the truth. Karma jayo hyakarmanaha. Okay? For knowledge does not mean renunciation of works. It means equality and non-attachment to desire and the objects of sense. And it means the poise of the intelligent will in the soul, free and high uplifted above the normal instrumentation of Prakriti and controlling the works of the mind and the senses and body in the power of self-knowledge and the pure objectless self-delight of spiritual realization, niyatam karma. I'll finish the para and then we'll read the footnote. Niyatam karma. Buddhi yoga is fulfilled by karma yoga. The yoga of the self-liberating intelligent will finds its full meaning by the yoga of desireless works. Thus, the Gita founds its teaching of the necessity of desireless works, nishkama karma, and unites the subjective practice of the Sankhyas, rejecting their merely physical rule with the practice of yoga. So, he has combined the Jnana Yoga, the Sankhya Yoga, with the Karma Yoga. The mind must rule, but action must continue. Now, again he is giving a footnote. This is from the own view. This is a niyatam karma. Niyatam karma in Sanskrit would mean two things. Niyatam karma, that which is the regular karma, which you are doing. Suppose I am a laundryman, I will continue to do my work. Suppose I am a doctor, I will continue to do my works. That's one interpretation. But the other interpretation of the word niyatam means controlled action. Yam is the root. Yam, niyatam karma is controlled action, not the usual action. Niyatam karma is the, so that's what Srinivas is going to explain in the footnote. Again, I cannot accept the current interpretation of niyatam karma as if it meant fixed and formal works and were equivalent to the Vedic nitya karma, the regular works of sacrifice, ceremonial, and the daily rule of Vedic living. Surely, niyata simply takes up the niyamya of the last verse. Krishna makes a statement. He who, controlling his senses by the mind, engages with the organs of action in yoga of action, he excels. Manasa niyamya arabhate karma yogam. And he immediately goes on to draw from the statement an injunction to sum it up and convert it into a rule. Do thou controlled action. Niyatam karma, niyatam kuru karma tvam. Niyatam takes up the niyamya, kuru karma takes up the arabhate karma yogam. Not formal works fixed by the external rule, but desireless works controlled by the liberated buddhi is the Gita's teaching.
Interesting. He uses the first person here.
Yeah.
I.
Yes.
Very rare.
Because he is not agreeing with the interpretation
Yes,
normally given to
yes.
niyatam karma. Now, the argument of the opponent, okay, not three of those, okay, be very careful. But still, there is an essential difficulty unsolved. Desire is the ordinary motive of all human actions. And if the soul is free from desire, then there is no further rationale or rationale. How do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce the word?
Rationale, yeah.
Rationale. Because there is an E at the end. Okay? So, no further rationale for action. We may be compelled to do certain works for the maintenance of the body. But even that is a subjection to the desire of the body, which we ought to get rid of if we are to attain perfection. But granting that this cannot be done, the only way is to fix a rule of action outside ourselves, not dictated by anything in our subjectivity, the nitya karma of the Vedic rule, the routine of ceremonial sacrifice, daily conduct and social duty, which the man who seeks liberation may do simply because it is enjoined upon him, without any personal purpose or subjective interest in them, with an absolute indifference to the doing, not because he is compelled by his nature, but because it is enjoined by the Shastra. All this is not Sri Aurobindo argument. It is the opponent telling that I should stop doing works. That's the whole idea, okay? But if the principle of the action is not to be external to the nature but subjective, if the actions even of the liberated and the sage are to be controlled and determined by his nature, svabhava niyatam, then the only subjective principle of action is desire of whatever kind, lust of the flesh or emotion of the heart or base or noble aim in the mind, but all subject to the gunas of Prakriti. Let us then interpret the niyata karma of the Gita as the nitya karma of the Vedic rule, its kartavya karma or work that has to be done as the Aryan rule of social duty, and let us take too its work done as a sacrifice to mean simply these Vedic sacrifices and this fixed social duty performed disinterestedly and without any personal object. This is how the Gita's doctrine of desireless works is often interpreted. But it seems to me, again, me, that the Gita's teaching is not so crude and simple, not so local and temporal and narrow as all that. It is large, free, subtle, profound. It is for all time and for all men, not for a particular age or country. Especially, it is always breaking free from external forms, details, dogmatic notions, and going back to principles and the great facts of our nature and our being. It's a work of large philosophic truth and spiritual practicality, not of constrained religious and philosophical formulas and stereotyped dogmas. So, this is the what you could say is the Sanatana Dharma. You are going to the origin of the principles of divine life, not religion. There we are.
Good. Thank you,
So,
Ranga.
stop today.
Yeah.